Oh, here we go.
Here we go. We're going to talk about your course, The Neurobiology of Embodied Presence.
Okay, that sounds great.
Mhm.
That's exciting. I love the class. What do you want to know about? Like, how about the evolution of it? Want to hear the evolution of it?
I would love to hear about the evolution of
Yeah.
it, please.
So it was once called Introduction to the Body Mind, and that was way back in the day. And that was the one of the first classes that the graduate students would take. And I taught that for many years. First of all, I was present to it for many years because a woman by the name of Marsha, oh my God, is that Marsha Parsons?
Oh,
She,
I took it with Marsha Parsons.
correct. And so I
Mhm.
would sit in on it, and it was just lovely, and it was wonderful, and it was exciting, and I would get jealous of it. I wish, I could just go into this body work like this, right away, kind of thing. And then it was handed over to me, not really sure why, but anyway, whatever. And the more I taught it, the more I was like, you know, what's really important here? Is it learning the body? Because I thought to myself, they're all dancers, so we're not we're preaching to the choir here. Like, okay, so and what I thought was my education at Naropa and how it was really founded or based in the idea of meditative presence. And what does it mean to be present? And what does it mean to attune? And these kind of questions or things that we kind of throw out as therapists. I'm attuning or I have empathy and that kind of thing. And I thought, I want to teach a class or bring in this idea of what it means to be present. What does it mean to be in the presence of someone else? Um, our first field work experience in Europa was you weren't supposed to do any therapy. You were just to go in and make relationships happen and journal on what it felt like to be present with another human being who in this case was mentally ill or something was going on with them, and just watch your own somatic responses. It was kind of based in authentic movement and Christine Caldwell's healing cycle, that kind of thing. And so I wanted to um, introduce the idea of presence. So even though I was still teaching many of the things that were taught in Intro to Body Mind, I was throwing on top of it kind of the cloak of presence. What does it feel like to be in this experience that you're having right now? You're not just having it, but you're with it. And how do you almost meta communicate that being with it so that not only you're experiencing it and you can let go into it, but you are also kind of cultivating the observing ego that follows it and recognizes it, so there's kind of almost idea of implicit explicit happening and co-collaborating, and that's what I was kind of really excited about. And that's what's kind of now led, and then on top of that I was offered the human development class at Columbia, and that started going toward Siegel's work, and those folks on attachment, interpersonal neurobiology. Now we're going into, we see it kind of going into um, polyvagal theory and that kind of thing. So I'm teaching these two classes on presence and interpersonal neurobiology, and really seeing how a lot of the different theories were blending. We're almost talking. What I loved about Siegel's work is he really talks about all of it: anthropology, neurobiology, biology, chemistry, all coming together in this thing. So, although these theorists had never maybe met, I, as a synthesizer, an integrator of ideas, was seeing how I was reading this book, felt like that book, felt like this theory, felt like that. And I was trying to kind of alchemize it into a something that would bring students into their kind of own neuro implicit explicit neurobiology, and then invite this idea of presence in it, which is the same thing to me. It's not I mean, even the name of the class is a little redundant in some ways, the neurobiology of embodied. It is that's what it is, right? And so the class really is a joining of body, mind, spirit, and the work there, and all the different exercises that I've created along the way that I find bring people into what I'm interested in is this thing called presence. And my students have always given me feedback on what does it mean to be present and how did this exercise assist with that. And then lecturing on more of the science of neurobiology, polyvagal, implicit, explicit memory, that kind of thing, and bringing those two together. And quite honestly, what I love about the science part is that it gives us not that we need it as a field, but sometimes we need it as a field. It gives us language that we can step forward into those who go, what's dance therapy? And we can sit at the table with those folks. I mean, I'm a biology major, so I love the science. And I think sometimes we need that, not to say that we have to always lead with it, but it helps us get into the door when we're able to speak like that. So we're not necessarily woo woo and oh spirit and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's really kind of the evolution of the class. I don't know if you want me to riff off of that kind of thing, and then certainly
Yeah,
with the,
I love that so much, Kris. It's really helpful to hear how this course is something that kind of was part of your curiosity and part of what you were investigating, seeking language for, and this idea of creating an alchemy is really beautiful, like an experimental, because that is truly how I experience your approach. Presence is something that maybe I should phrase this as a question, but I was going to say presence involves attuning to what is, and sometimes it is what is very unpredictable, and that's actually part of how I experienced the flow of conversation with you, how I've experienced your classes, that there's structure, there's language, and there's also this sensitivity to what is.
I like that because I mean I love the word curiosity, and I think that this particular class, much like many of my classes, but this particular one is almost all experiential. So what the students should expect is a lot of experiences, just a brief kind of overarching question or curiosity, and then right down into the experience. Because what I like about the language is the language is something we can hang on to. Doesn't mean that it becomes sacrosanct, like it becomes law, but it's something we can bring into, like if you look at any kind of hero's journey or any kind of spiritual journey, we have the language of the community that we go into with, so that when we're lost we have the language and we're going aha, so we're following, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I love. But the class is purely experiential, and the idea, the idea of curiosity is that no one person's curiosity is right in the room. It becomes your own. And so this idea of embodiment is, don't embody like I embody like you embody. So I like to believe that when someone comes from the class, they have found an aesthetic or a creative process. I mean, one of the articles, and I had pulled it up because I hadn't seen it. One of the articles that I was used. Can you still see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Because I've lost you. There you are. Um, it's called therapeutic presence, and Sherry Geller and Leslie Greenberg. But what I love is that they have a model It's called a model of therapeutic presence. And it goes from preparing the ground for presence, the process of presence, and experiencing presence, which I truly loved when I found it. Because I've always been, because I didn't come from dance and a lot of stuff, I was doing already what was happening. Like when I finally got into dance, people were really wanting, oh, you're so Cunningham, or you're so this. And I was like, who's Cunningham? I have no idea. And I'm a true believer that all of us as humans are already doing the work. We just don't have the words for it yet. And what I love when I provide an article or something is the kind of, not the curious, but the eyes that open when a student realizes that that's what they do already. And it's almost like a validation because it's been written, you know. And when I read this article, I was like, oh yeah, oh absolutely. But what I really loved about it, which I don't think a lot of people or a lot of therapists necessarily have been trained to do, which is to prepare for the ground for presence. What do you do before a session? And so much of the time, people, I go from group to group, I go from client to client. I don't care how, even if it's a second, what do you do to prepare for the next? And that is so important. And they really talk about it here. It's like, and they also go into like, how do you prepare for life? How are you taking care of you? How are you managing? How are you looking at personal growth? That all these things outside of the sessions, much like we want our clients to do, don't just come in once a week and then during the week you're not using the techniques. How are we doing it when we're not being therapists? How are we living a life that is present, you know, kind of thing. So I really like the articles because it really kind of starts to dig down deep, and it asks the question of self-care, but it really looks at it as an intentional flow of how we're living our life. You know,
So
that
beautiful.
that we're not just present as a therapist, but we're present as a person. And that again, when I teach the neurobiology, it's like we have everything we need and we have all of it that it takes to do, but we're just not using it. And I think sometimes it's because we just don't know, or someone hasn't just taken the flashlight and said, oh, look what you do. Look at what you do. And we go, what is it? Oh, wow. And it wakes it up, you know? And so that's another kind of idea that I intend with this class is to wake up what's already there, you know?